Tonight, number 2, North Carolina comes to Comcast to take on Maryland in yet another important ACC matchup. The boys from Blue Heaven have been cruising through a season of smooth sailing. Maryland's journey has been a roller coaster ride of emotional highs and lows in the anything can happen ACC. Second-ranked North Carolina in Terrapin territory. It's one of those that you circle on your calendar every college basketball season. ACC Sunday Night Hoops is now. On this cold February night, fans anticipate a breakthrough game with the Ides of March just around the corner as number 2 North Carolina comes into the Comcast Center to meet Maryland. ACC Sunday Night Hoops presented by Staples. There you see the standings in the ACC. Carolina perched at the top, and for Maryland trying to get above the 500 mark in the very muddled ACC middle. And the John Gilchrist, Raymond Felton story will be documented many times over. In a league that's guard-laden, these two are among the best. Hello, everyone. I'm Tim Brando, and there's no question tonight, North Carolina trying to solidify themselves as the number 1 seed. Maryland trying to get inside the bubble rather than outside. And when you start talking about Rashad McCants, not here for the second consecutive game. So as I bring in my man, the G-Man, the question is, can Carolina keep this smooth sail going without McCants for a second straight game?
Well, you know, they're going to try to bring it home, Tim. And it's, you know, they hit the buoy leaving port against Santa Clara in the first game, but then they ripped off 14 in a row and were well on their way. The only squalls they ran into out at sea were at Duke and at Wake Forest, but since then they've been on a roll, and they are clearly a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament.
For Gary Williams, he's hanging his head right now on the sweep of Duke, but they've been swept by North Carolina State and Clemson. A rocky road for them.
Yeah, they really need to smooth things out as this season comes to an end, but it has been dizzying heights. You talk about sweeping Duke, and then the gut-wrenching lows of loss at home to Clemson, getting swept by NC State. Gary Williams thinks that defense is the thing that's going to bring this team back to the level they were last year.
In that matchup, you might recall, against Clemson, he had a shuttle bus with starters leaving, subs leaving, and the like.
Yeah, he was down to his team managers. I really think that's who he wanted to play at the end of the game. And Gary's been sending a lot of messages this year, and I don't think there's going to be any question that this team is going to be ready for this opponent tonight.
We're going to give you more red carpet treatment when we continue with our pregame festivities. The third member of our broadcast team, Dwayne Ballin, when we come back to the Comcast Center as Maryland prepares to take on number 2 and trying harder.
Welcome back to ACC Sunday Night Hoops. I'm Dwayne Ballin here at the Comcast Center in College Park. Maryland fans are beginning to file into this arena for the second meeting of the season with the North Carolina Tar Heels. Our ACC flashback now takes us back to the first meeting between these two back at Chapel Hill Smith Center. Ranked number 22 at the time, Maryland led midway through the first half with an aggressive defense that created myriad turnovers. But then number 3 North Carolina started forcing its turnovers and shut down the Terrapins the rest of the way. Raymond Felton started a surge on this assist to Jawad Williams, and moments later he was the recipient of this alley-oop pass from Rashad McCants. The Tar Heels had 7 players in double figures led by McCants with 17. Tonight's query: what is Gary Williams' plan to avoid another encounter like this?
The thing I learned was that you have to really run your offense well if you expect to compete against North Carolina, because they take advantage of every bad shot you take. They're probably as good a transition team as there is in the country, and if you give them chances to get into their transition, they're really difficult to stop.
Williams Terrapins feel this is a must-win game against the first-place Tar Heels tonight. The players are getting ready. Tim Brando and Mike Jaminski will have the call coming up next as ACC Sunday Night Hoops continues.
ACC Sunday Night Hoops is presented by Staples. That was easy. And brought to you in part by Dodge. You can take life as it comes, or you can grab life by the horns. Dodge. Roy Williams, the winningest active coach in America today, bringing his team out. And here's the Staples starting lineup for the Tar Heels. So very consistent. Jack Emanuel, the designated defender. Jawad Williams, perhaps the most underpublicized, improved player on the squad. May, Felton, and Scott. Gary Williams, 3 years removed from a national championship himself, understands what this team must do tonight. And the starting five that he presents: Nick Kaner-Medley, who's been an all-league performer at times. Grennan does get the start as a senior. Good for him. This is senior night. Travis Garrison and company. Let's take a look now at the Dodge game plan, G-Man.
For North Carolina, they want to defend the flex offense inside and take care of the ball. Even though they beat Maryland, they had 24 turnovers in that first game. And for the Terrapins, they want to try to contain Raymond Felton, and they must be active on the glass. They were outboarded by 20 in the first game by the Tar Heels.
Nice to see that Gary Williams has allowed Michael Grennan. He's got the ball right now, the opportunity to start on this senior night. He's been playing quite a bit of late, and in fact, you look back at some of those wins against Duke, he had some very meaningful free throws to help them out. Nice move by McCray, unable to finish. May with the rebound, outlet to Felton. Down to 10. Felton with the dump down to May. No double team coming, and Sean May takes advantage.
But Tim, I don't know if there's been a more consistent low post man in the league over the last 6 or 7 games. I mean, Sean May has been averaging a double-double in that stretch.
Kaner-Medley, from a matchup standpoint, can be difficult for the Tar Heels to deal with. I think it's this side of the floor, though, Mike, where it's very important early on to see how the Terrapins respond.
Defensively, and a little turnover and sloppy play. And this is something that happened in the first game, that they had North Carolina 13 turnovers in the first 13 minutes, and this will be a little bit of a challenge for Jawad Williams. Kaner-Medley, pretty nice, good job of putting the ball on the floor.
He can beat you driving to the basket. He does have an excellent face-up game, and that fadeaway is not a bad shot for him. Gilchrist over Felton, and again, the size and strength of Gilchrist can at times be an advantage against the smaller Raymond Felton.
The one thing he has to work on, though, Tim, is not to get sucked into an individual battle with Raymond Felton out there. He still has to run this team, and they're having a little conversation right now during the course of the game.
And Scott with the poor pass. He and Williams got crossed up. So two rather ugly turnovers for North Carolina in their last possession.
Those are just mental lapses.
Yeah.
So, as a coach, you think you can deal with the physical things, but it's the mental lapses that really kill you, especially on the road.
Two of them unforced. Garrison over May. Too strong. Felton takes it down off the deck.
And that type of shot just bails Sean May out. You have to attack him, try to get some fouls on him.
Jawad Williams with the triple.
He's a guy, you touched on it, Tim, during the lineup thing. He just gets overshadowed by the star on this team, and he's been consistent all year long.
Well, you heard what Gary Williams said about him today when we spoke. He said, this guy just plays.
Yep.
He doesn't get much attention, but he brings it every night.
And happy for him that they are having the season that they are, trying to erase that 8-20 year early in his career.
Turnover by Kaner-Medley. Felton got his hands involved. Garrison from the backside picks it away. Tough pass, out of bounds. Last touch by North Carolina. Gilchrist had a nice idea. Good defensive work by Roy Williams' team, who has played magnificent defense. You see, they got 24 turnovers in that first meeting in Chapel Hill.
And that's what you want to do. You want to try to make Kaner-Medley go right. Let him finish that. Most times he will pull up for the jump shot going that way.
Felton gives it up to May. And the foul spotted as Sean puts it on the deck. Gary Williams disagrees. It will go against Chris McCray.
You know, one of the things, both of these teams love to run the basketball. In the top 3 scoring in the conference. And so for both of them, transition defense is going to be a premium in this game.
Marvin Williams, the sensational freshman, checks in for Jawad Williams. Manuel over Grennan, rejected by Garrison. Kaner Medley leads the Terrapins down the floor. Gilchrist. That one was knocked away by Scott. Maryland will control it on their end of the floor.
Boy, and Gary Williams is just irate, telling John Gilchrist, run the offense. That jump shot way early in the shot clock. You got to, against this Carolina team, you've got to explore all your options.
And particularly, you see the bump by Scott. There are times, we talk so often about Gary Williams' flex offense, and I don't know if people really understand and comprehend what we mean by that, but against North Carolina, they have some matchup advantages with that.
Well, it's a series of up screens and baseline screens as you're formed in a box. But the problem was with the offense this year, Tim, that they don't have a true low post presence that offense really requires. They've always had that stud down low for duck-ins to get easy shots.
Kaner Medley on the dribble drive. Gilchrist in traffic, counted, and the foul.
Well, John Gilchrist at 5.3 rebounds, one of the best rebounding point guards in the country. We talk about his strength inside. A lot of times, you know, it's not always the greatest idea to have your point guard lingering around the offensive glass, but after inbounding that ball, it just came right to him.
He gets the old-fashioned three-point play. 7-5, and Gilchrist has 5 and the Terps 7. Is this place jumping?
Well, senior night, and you know, sense, and this is an extremely important game for Maryland. Many feel that a win here would solidify their NCAA hopes.
Felton with a 3-ball.
Including me.
Yeah.
And I think probably you.
Absolutely. An 8-8 finish with the wins that they have on their resume. And of course, remember, they've still got to play Virginia Tech, a team that's had a really good year, but played very poorly over the weekend against North Carolina State. Brennan. That one was rejected by Manuel. Out of bounds to the Terrapins when we come back. End to end, this could be one of those games. First one to triple digits wins. Guards getting it done early on. North Carolina leads by 1 in the opening moments. Not at all what we saw. We witnessed earlier in the week against Clemson when the Tigers had their way getting to the basket. Gary Williams pulled out the starters, brought in the subs. Pretty soon he made another decision. We asked him about that earlier today.
Well, in the Clemson game, I took the starters out. Then I took the subs out that went in for the starters. And then my assistant coaches didn't want to play, so I had to go back with the starters.
I think mystifying might be the best word for Gary and this team this year. That they had the wins they do. Memphis early in the year was a top 25 team, sweeping Duke, beating Georgia Tech, and then losing at home to Clemson. Really have just been all over the map.
Shot clock at 2. McCray. That's a big hoop right there. And Williams, don't blink. Count the basket. Kaner Medley had it. You have to have the floor balanced. North Carolina, that's textbook, getting it down the floor.
No team in basketball does a better job of transition after a made basket than North Carolina. You almost have to take a couple of bodies off the offensive glass and give that up to just to get people back and bodies back.
Offensive foul spotted against Maryland. May have been an illegal pick.
And might we add that was Marvin Williams at 6'9" running the floor. So that's what really puts a lot of pressure on your big people to get back.
Garrison picked up the foul, and David Noel is coming to the game now for North Carolina, the junior from Durham, North Carolina, who always brings it on the defensive end.
Well, he and Manuel may be the best 1-2 punch defensively at that position in the game.
May finds Scott for 3. Oh, the iron unkind, but it's pulled down by May. And he finally gets it to roll through.
Sean May, 14.4 rebounds his last 5, and must get a body on him on the offensive glass.
Kaner Medley with a leaner. We're tied at a dozen apiece. Felton. Both teams really taking it to the rack. And by the way, that was the 1,000th point on that leaner for Kaner Medley. Brennan lost it on the way to the deck, and it's picked up by Felton.
Brennan not just out there starting for show, Tim. He's played 6 early minutes here. Very meaningful.
There's a backdoor cut by Scott. Good defensive help by Maryland.
Kaner Medley able to get over there just in time to slow up the progress and break up the layup.
Marvin Williams checking Kaner Medley. As good as he is, there are times when he will make some mistakes on ball fakes and the like. I think Gary Williams wouldn't mind seeing him have an opportunity to touch it inside. Does not get the reversal to go. Noel, outlet to Scott. A steal by Gilchrist. Oh, North Carolina has turned it over 5 times. McCray again.
The coaching staff is very concerned about turnovers coming into this game, Tim, and it has hurt them so far. Maryland has capitalized on most of them.
6 for McCray, the junior from Capitol Heights, Maryland. Mays. McCray the rebound. Kaner Medley cherry picking.
We thought we might see a high-scoring affair here. It's shaping up like a 100-point night for both teams.
I'd say the first one to get there gets the W. Maryland on a 7-0 run. Noel left free. This is a Tar Heels team that's got tremendous balance. Even opening, they can take advantage.
But that's what shows you the respect for Raymond Felton. Both players going to him. Brennan kind of sliding over and giving Noel, rather than giving a drive up to Felton, letting him take a 3-point shot.
Gilchrist off the bounce, too strong. Garrison had it, stripped by Noel. Gary Williams pounding his arm. He felt there's a foul. Marvin Williams up top. Well, if he makes that shot, that signals a long night usually for the opposition.
And felony charge. I mean, that should be illegal if he can. And he has been knocking down that shot. It's in his repertoire.
Garrison too strong. Marvin Williams the outlet. The good news is Maryland's playing better defense. The bad news, the flow of the game has it going up and down. And no team runs as well as North Carolina.
That's we thought coming in that Maryland might want to try and control the tempo a little bit, but Gilchrist is bent on getting this game up and down. In fact, he was just yelling a little bit at Kaner Medley for not filling the block and getting down in the transition.
Gilchrist trying to post up Felton. Kaner Medley takes the jumper and fails. Noel in traffic. Brennan the rebound. Give and go maneuver, but it's disrupted by Noel. I believe we're going to get an overrule here for Carl Hess. Maryland should have the ball and does. Good piece of officiating that time by Carl Hess and Ray Natili, who along with Mike Wood are a part of the crew. They're slipping out for easy ones early on at College Park. Thursday, Pac-10 College Hoops returns. 14th ranked Washington, fresh off that win against Arizona, will be taking on California. Coverage begins at 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 Pacific time. Tim Brando, Mike Kaminsky, Dwayne Ballin, happy to have you with us. Maryland leading by 2, a frenetic pace in the first 9 minutes of our game tonight. We expected that, and that's exactly what it's been. McCray inbounds for Maryland. Ledbetter, Sterling Ledbetter into the game for the first time, the junior out of Laurel, Maryland. Gives it to McCray. Gist is also on the floor. James Gist for the first time. And North Carolina counters in the backcourt. Quentin Thomas on the deck now along with Terry
Well, Roy Williams told us before the game that he'd like to try to limit Raymond Felton's minutes and get Thomas out on the floor a little bit more. He'd like him in the 30 to 32 range against North Carolina State. Had to play him 38.
Yeah, and you know, I think he got lulled into that because Raymond played so well that particular night, had control of the game all the way through. It may have been the best game he had played since they had been out at Maui individually against Iowa.
And most teams try when Felton's out of game to apply pressure to Thomas. Let's see if Maryland can do that.
Jawad Williams steps out for the tray. May keeping it alive again. Back up and fouled. Abikwe had a hand in there, and he'll pick up the personal foul. Kenya Abikwe, sophomore from Carson, California. Let's go over to Dwayne Ballard.
Tim and Mike, I talked to Nick Kaner-Medley before the game, and I asked him, about the importance of this game, and he recognized that. He says, but what Coach Williams has really been trying to get us to understand is we have to understand the big game doesn't necessarily have a direct correlation with the name on the opposing jersey. Clemson was just as big a game as this North Carolina game is. They have to become consistent. He says their backs are to the wall, and they do understand that now.
Yeah, frankly, this is not one of those games where he should have an issue with how hard his team plays.
But you look at it, and and Dwayne's right. If they take care of business against Clemson, they're sitting there at 8-6 rather than 7-7, and they've taken a lot of pressure off themselves.
His was looking to work give and go, but it was taken away by Noel. Off the baseline extended.
Well, they feel, I talked about the lack of a low post presence, and they feel eventually like Gist can be that guy, and a nice little bump and fadeaway jump shot.
Noel with the bounce pass entry. Williams gets rid of it. Jawad Williams driving, and boy, is he good now with the ball, driving to the basket.
Well, all career highs on all his shooting numbers.
McCray with a vengeance takes it to the rack, and he is fouled by Rashawn Terry, sophomore from Winston-Salem.
Talk about Chris McCray and what he can do. He certainly brings the three-point shot. Struggled early in that category against North Carolina. 0 for 6 in their first matchup, but has knocked down 2 of 3 here in this game. With Gilchrist out, a nice look ahead, triggering the break to Kaner-Medley.
I saw a wonderful sign a moment ago from one of the fans. You see Jackie Manuel coming back behind the Maryland bench, and the sign read, "Pretend they're Duke." I certainly wouldn't want them to pretend they're Clemson or NC State.
I don't think you need to pretend anything against the #2 team in the country.
John Gilchrist comes back onto the floor. McCray takes the seat with 6. Quentin Thomas out. Raymond Felton back on the floor for North Carolina as well. But you've said it many times over, Mike. One of the things coaches, particularly this time of the year, don't want to have to deal with is coaching effort. And again, Jawad Williams taking it in hard, and he's hammered by Abikwe.
Yeah, and that should be a given right from October 15, going in. That's the thing you expect when you recruit these kids, and you know what's inside of them.
Will Bowers is going to come into the game very quickly. Let's go back over to Dwayne Ballard. Dwayne?
Tim and Mike, you mentioned earlier about Jawad Williams not getting recognition. I asked him that very thing during warm-ups tonight, and he looked at me and laughed. He said, it really doesn't matter. These guys on this team know I lead. He's having the most satisfying year of his career at Carolina with a qualifier, and that means St. Louis.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's become one of the real emotional leaders for this team.
Well, you know what, Tim, he's had a lot invested in this year. There are a lot of, he's certainly seen the absolute lowest of lows in this program's history, maybe, and to erase that, I think this year has been absolutely critical.
Bowers is stripped. Kaner-Medley, count it, and a foul.
One of the things Gary Williams talked about coming off the Clemson game was getting to loose balls and offensive rebounds, and the Terrapins have been very quick to the ball in this start. And I'll tell you what, that was a nice look inside. Kaner-Medley in the right place at the right time, and they would like to see him operate a little bit more in the paint. He's knocked down a 3 in this game, but he's so very strong inside. He puts a lot of pressure on you.
It's been very impressive. And aggressive. He's taken the ball to the hole 9 times in this game.
There was a stretch a month ago, Tim. I thought he was first team all ACC. I mean, he was playing on that high a level. He's dipped a little bit, but has regained his form.
Particularly after that Duke game at Cameron Indoor Stadium. Manuel, nice look to Terry, and again the foul. And the rotation over. Not there. It'll go against Gist. First foul on James Gist.
You watch this nice basket cut right down here. When you do that hard, good things happen. The middle of the defense just opened up for Maryland, and Rashawn Terry waltzed right down the lane. Really astounding thing about that first game, that North Carolina was 4 points away from 9 players in double figures. Yeah. I mean, that's unbelievable.
Well, with all due respect to Rashad McCants, who's an outstanding player, we've watched now more than 10+ minutes of this first half, and it's not as if North Carolina's hurting. You know what I mean? It's they would love to have him, don't get me wrong, but this team is so deep and so balanced that they can absorb a loss of an all-league performer. Few in this conference could.
The only guy they can't do without is number 2.
Yep.
That's it. I mean, they can suffer through just about, Sean May would put a pressure on them for sure being out, but Raymond Felton is an absolute must if they are going to go to St. Louis.
By the way, Sean May with that last hoop now has 8 points, and we're tied at 24. Powers goes to the right hand and gets it up and over May.
That's the first points he scored in 4 games, but again, they want to put pressure on Sean May. They think that they can get him in foul trouble, and you do that by going aggressively to the basket.
And that means more minutes for Bowers. A rejection of Marvin Williams, a pilfer by Felton. May, yes, and a foul.
Sean May making an offensive statement here early in this game, and we've talked about it, Tim, that he may have the best hands in the ACC for a big man right now. This was a terrific catch. Here's the look inside and the block. Then Raymond Felton tracks it down, and it turns into a 3-point play for Sean May.
You know, that's another one of those situations, too, where it was a loose ball situation in Maryland. They were beaten to the ball, and that's something Gary Williams does not want to see. He'll take more of that. Gilchrist and 1. Timeout, 7:54 remaining in the opening half. Terps playing with tenacity against the number 2 Tar Heels at home in College Park. It is Oscar night, as everyone knows, and we certainly are keeping with the tradition here on ACC Sunday Night Hoops. How about our first installment of a Foxy Award? Player of the Year, and I believe you and I both agree, J.J. Redick. You, though, with a little trepidation up until about 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah, I was leaning towards Sheldon Williams on that, but I'll tell you what, Tim, the actual vote's out there, and it may not be decided until after the Duke-Carolina game, because certainly Raymond Felton is in that discussion.
Absolutely.
And you know how guys like to hold on to their vote, and you know, Chris Paul was the preseason player of the year, but I think both Raymond Felton and J.J. Redick have moved past him.
Now, picking first and second teams is so difficult, particularly with all the outstanding guard play that we have in the Atlantic Coast Conference this season.
Now, keep in mind, too, in the first game of this series, the score and time were virtually the same, but then Carolina went on an incredible run and took a 47-34 halftime lead. So I'm sure Gary Williams reminded his team of that. They have to finish the half out.
Marvin Williams, ball was deflected. Felton recovered it, and the runner goes.
His offensive game has really stepped up. 49% from the floor, 46 from behind the arc. He is just shooting lights out all year long.
Maryland's 3 top season scorers have been the difference early on tonight. Craig Gilchrist and Kaner Medley.
I think Bowers that time wasted a dribble before he knew where May was playing him. He put the ball on the floor and took himself out of the play.
Those 3 players, Mike, that I just mentioned have 25 of the 29 scored so far. Gilchrist unable to add to it, and May brings it down. That was a good defensive sequence for North Carolina. Melvin Scott on the wing. An air ball. Kaner Medley retrieves it. Gist. Gilchrist trying to keep it alive, but May with the outlet to Scott.
Again, I think you bail the player out by shooting that jump shot. Now, Marvin Williams, too good a defensive player, just got up and got a little piece of the ball.
Felton off the pick, takes advantage.
You know the body language, John Gilchrist shaking his head, slumping down a little bit. It looks like he wants to say, all right, I need to get back into the fray here and get into a little battle with Felton, but that's not what Maryland needs right now.
The ongoing issues with Gilchrist and his decision-making of Gary Williams has been part of this most recent Maryland slump.
Nice matchup outside to Jackie Manuel on Kaner Medley. He's been denying him the ball this whole possession.
There's a quality look, but Bowers unable to finish. Gilchrist with a nice pass. North Carolina looks to add to their 2-point lead.
Right now, defensively, North Carolina funneling the shots to both Bowers and Gist, willing to take their chances with those two.
May. Out there. And the foul spotted. Go against the... I believe they're going to say it was out of bounds. Yes, it's just out of bounds. No whistle. Jawad Williams comes back onto the floor for May. Marvin Williams also sits down. And David Noel back on the floor for North Carolina. They'll trigger it in. Felton leaves it for Jawad Williams, who's hammered by Kaner Medley. And next week, ACC Sunday Night Hoops returns when 6th-ranked Wake Forest battles North Carolina State. A showdown between Tobacco Road rivals. Coverage begins at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. And Mike, we could be talking about an NCAA tournament berth for NC State at stake. We could be talking about a #1 seed for Wake Forest. A lot on the line. And frankly, you probably can't get the ACC tournament seeding set until after you've seen that game.
Absolutely. I mean, the things are so muddled, and right now teams must concentrate, Tim, for the first time ever about getting to number 4 or 5, because you don't want to be playing on Thursday in the Big East tournament. No team that's ever played in that first round has ever gone on to win the tournament. It's just too much of a grind. 4 games in 4 days.
Carolina in the midst of a 7-0 spurt. Ledbetter has come onto the floor now, replacing Gilchrist. Operating at the point with Garrison, Abekwe, McCray, and Kaner Medley. Off the pick from Abekwe. Just through iron. Williams with the rebound for North Carolina.
And Jackie Manuel has really gotten into Kaner Medley defensively.
Ledbetter leads the attack and helps claim the turnover. Gary Williams really working over Ray Natilli. Raymond Felton checks out.
There's a look, and they're saying that foul occurred right at the end, but you get the next best thing, you get the possession.
Yep.
But Gary can never be completely happy.
Garrison, good baseline pass. Wave it off, foul prior to the shot against Noel. That was an excellent baseline pass.
But you can see, Tim, how far out North Carolina has got Maryland extended and where they initiate their offense. And that was a nice play inside. Just keep an eye on how smoothly this offense runs without John Gilchrist in the game.
That was just the 6th team foul against North Carolina. Abekwe in traffic, forced to adjust. Nothing comes easily against North Carolina, and they get it back.
If you're Maryland right now, and they've done a decent job, you can't worry about arguing with the referee. That split second that your attention is taken away, North Carolina's rushing it up the floor.
Maryland scoreless in the last 3.5 minutes. Very rarely can you get away with that against a team as potent offensively as the Tar Heels. Leading this league in scoring, Maryland not far behind. Tar Heels averaging just a little under 90, and Maryland not that far behind. That's another one of the reasons why we thought we'd see a game that could approach 100 tonight.
But the difference has been defensively. The numbers for North Carolina scary. And a nice little stand right there, having to burn a timeout on the sideline out of bounds.
4:07 remaining, and John Gilchrist has had his moments early on in the game, but again, maintaining a level. That's the issue tonight.
Right, and, you know, he's got 8 points and shooting the ball pretty well, 3 of 6 from the floor. But I think the issue all season long is how does Gary Williams rate John Gilchrist's performance and how John Gilchrist rates his own performance as a point guard.
Well, we had this discussion earlier today with Gary Williams. And by the way, I'll preface this statement by saying there are a lot of guys in the coaching profession that we all think a lot of, and I think Gary Williams would be in that group. We asked him about what do you attribute the issues with this team, particularly. He said, look, when we play well and our team gets credit, I think our players see it as individual credit. We need them to see it as a team that played well. And again, a nice look inside, and the bucket goes to Quentin Thomas.
Not a big-time scorer. That is his 20th field goal attempt in 27 games. So he is a pass first, pass second, pass third point guard.
I thought that spoke volumes when Gary told us that, Mike. And really, when you live in major metropolitan areas like this Maryland team does, there's Jones from 40 feet. That was a poor decision. McCray for a three-pointer, and he knocks it down. I mean, a lot of times the media goes to the individual as opposed to the team. And I think at times a young club will not respond as a team, as Jackie Manuel answers with a three.
Right, and you have to realize that as the team gets better and as the team is rewarded, each individual is rewarded accordingly.
Yeah. That's a double dribble as Jones was trying to make his move and slip. Timeout. 3:07 remaining. North Carolina with its largest lead of 6. That's right. Good evening. We're happy to have you with us here in College Park.
Coming up on the ACC Sunday Night Hoops halftime show, I'll be joined by the coach Perry Clark, the vet Larry Conley. Who's the biggest and baddest of the Big 12? And in the wake of seeking a #1 seed, Forest is firing. It's the ACC Sunday Night Hoops halftime show. Back out to College Park, Maryland. Check in with our trio of Tim Brando, Mike Cheminsky, and Dwayne Ballin. Timmy B.
All right, Mike, North Carolina leading by 6. Just over 3 minutes remaining in the opening half. Our Elone first half stat of the game, field goal shooting percentage. And North Carolina, after a tough start with turnovers, they've really gotten their act together.
Well, on the year, Tim, on the year, North Carolina shooting 50% as a team. Astounding.
It is.
That, and then you look at field goal, number of field goals assisted, and that stat, I think, are an indication of how good your point guard play is. And Raymond Felton has just been outstanding. And a lot of that you can lay at his doorstep. You've got to have finishers, but he really sets the table.
Sean May has it knocked out of bounds on the double team. He's back on the floor. Brennan is also on the deck for Maryland. Michael Brennan. There he is checking Terry. Painter Medley. Gilchrist, who, by the way, just scored his 1,000th career point a few moments ago. Maryland's in the midst of quite a drought.
Very active defensive stand by Maryland.
With 2 on the shot clock. Felton can't hit. Needed to get it on the lid. And the foul against Marvin Williams.
And that was a great defensive sequence for Maryland. They really had North Carolina pushed out on the floor, and at the end of the clock, they forced a bad long 3 by Raymond Felton instead of letting him get into the paint.
That's the second foul on Marvin Williams, and the 7th team foul for North Carolina. So now they're in the 1-and-1.
Marvin Williams playing through turf toe, which he suffered against UConn. And believe me, I've had that injury. It stays with you. That does not go away quickly.
By the way, speaking of that, we were discussing with Roy Williams earlier today, Jawad Williams coming back onto the floor, the situation with McCants. And he said, you know, he complained a little bit, even after the Duke game, going all the way back to early February. They played at UConn, was a little bit indifferent at that point in time. Played for 34 minutes against Virginia, and then after that, that disorder became even more difficult. He's not been able to eat, hold anything down in the last few weeks.
So this is more a thing of energy being an issue. I mean, he can't even go through a whole practice, let alone play. And it doesn't sound like it's anything that's going to come back quickly.
Yeah. That tip in by Manuel. It's at 40-34. Gilchrist to McCray. one and done for the most part. North Carolina really blocking out the last few minutes. Carey past Brennan, gives it up to May.
Nice interior passing. Sean May does a nice job inside. We talked about his ability to catch. He made himself available as a receiver on the drive.
Gary Williams is livid with the lack of defensive help.
Here's the look inside, and see that drive? Sean May able to make up a lot of room without even putting the ball on the floor.
May has 12 points and 6 rebounds. And you see the numbers, Mike, inside the painted area. North Carolina doubling up on Maryland. Felton really doing a nice job of feeding and fanning the big people.
You know, it's incredible. You think about the players who have played there. In the history of the program, only 12 players in Carolina history have averaged a double-double, and that's what Sean May is trying to finish up right now.
McCray for 3. Boy, he has been the constant, hasn't he?
And even with Manuel, I mean, Manuel's the fireman. Whoever's hot, that's who they send him on, and that was just almost unguardable. It was so far out.
Poor pass by Noel leads to a turnover. McCray. Well, the rim got in the way that time as he tried to go finger roll.
Tim, fundamentally, you've got to come in from the side and use the backboard. How many times do you see a player trying to go right over the front and leave it up short?
Just all night long. Find the spot, move to it, and he is absolutely going to convert. 12 in the game for Jawad Williams.
And he's a guy who's really expanded his three-point game. He can knock down the jump shot, also very reliable in the post, tough to guard.
Harrison can't hit. Manuel pulls it down, and North Carolina beginning to extend. It looks remarkably similar to that first game in Chapel Hill.
They went on that run to close it out, and not quite as bad here. And Maryland certainly within distance, only 8 points.
But you just get a feeling that the Tar Heels are not having to work nearly as hard to score as Maryland. Nice defensive play again by McCray. Out of bounds off him. Tar Heels will trigger it in.
You see the two-man game right here. You see Felton coming off, and then the flare out on the jump shot. It's just tough to recover to defensively. Jawad Williams goes so far wide that the rotation can't get to him.
Now the Tar Heels commit their 7th turnover, but only their 2nd really in the last 12 minutes. They had 5 very quick turnovers.
And that's one you can live with. It goes out of bounds. You get a chance to set your defense on the other end. It's those turnovers that lead directly to points that kill you, those that take place out front.
Gilchrist wants it. Off the back iron, McCray trying to save it. It's pulled away by Manuel. Length of the floor, Noel. Boy, remember that. And again, the floor not balanced. And Gary Williams very upset that his team was not balanced along the floor defensively.
Just the pace of the play grinds you down for North Carolina. And again, here where turnovers kill you when they happen out front like this. Nobody back in rotation. David Noel puts a punctuation mark on the first half for the Tar Heels.
A 21-8 run to close out the half. Let's go in the corridor to Dwayne Ballard. Dwayne?
Senior night, and your team came out, withstood that impressive first half.
Well, we got to do a better job getting back in defensive transition, and we can't give them so many free throws. To me, they seem like they stayed on the free throw line and didn't miss very many of them, Dwayne.
Finally, defensively, you've held them under 40% from the floor.
The last 3 or 4 minutes, we played much better job defensively.
Thank you, Coach. Let's send it to the studio and Mike Oberg.
Dwayne, thank you very much. So the #2 team in the nation leads by 10. Welcome to the ACC Sunday Night Hoops halftime show. Alongside the coach Perry Clark, the vet Larry Conley, I'm Mike Goldberg. For #2 North Carolina, Coach, Rashad McCants or not, the defense is always omnipresent.
Without question, I think that's one of the biggest things Roy Williams has brought to this club this year defensively. In the last 3 minutes, I thought they did a great job of taking Maryland out of what they wanted to run and extending them in their offense.
Yeah, Gary Williams should be upset with his club. You don't allow a team like that to run out, particularly right at the end of the first half. Chris McCray had a great first half, though, 13
Chris
points.
McCray establishing himself, but will it be in back-to-back losses? That is the big concern. Coming up on the ACC Sunday Night Hoops halftime show, Does Big 12 supremacy still live in Lawrence? A top 10 tilt and much more next on the ACC Sunday Night Hoops Halftime Show.
ACC Sunday Night Hoops is presented by Staples. That was easy. And brought to you in part by Bass. Reach for greatness.
Great matchup in the Big 12. Number 4 Oklahoma State at number 8 Kansas. John Lucas had quite a game.
Mikey did. He hit his first 9 shots of the evening and had a terrific game, but it wasn't enough.
It was not. Look at this finish. Aaron Miles keeps it himself, hits the layup. 2-point lead Jayhawks, and then Lucas one more time to try to win it. Won't happen. Eddie Sutton is the Oklahoma State head coach. 0-11 at Fog Allen Fieldhouse. Elsewhere, Nebraska, a big win also in the Big 12. They moved to 13-12. Iowa State is on the bubble. Curtis Stinson held to just 9 points in the contest. In the ACC, Virginia at number 6, Wake Forest. Chris Paul early, Chris Paul in the middle, Chris Paul late.
It was the Chris Paul show. Not only did he score, but he got other people involved. Williams had 17, Justin Gray had 20.
A very balanced attack for Skip Prosser's team. Wake, a half game back of North Carolina. This week they host Georgia Tech, then they are at NC State. They win big time. And Florida State loses for the 8th straight time. Clemson gets consecutive wins for the first time since mid-December. Clemson wins 83-74. They host Virginia Tech on Tuesday night. All right, let's stay in the ACC, Coach and Vet. Let's talk about number 6 Wake Forest, still very much in line for a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament, and still, Larry, very much in line for an ACC title.
Mike, I agree. You know, they've got Tech at home, and of course they go to North Carolina State for that game next weekend. And as we look at the 3 clubs that are at the top right now, North Carolina, Duke, and Wake Forest, I really think, Perry, the schedule really favors North Carolina. They've got 2 left, both of them at home. Yeah, but Larry, they have to beat Duke for one of them. But I do think that the Wake Forest-Georgia Tech game has huge implications in the ACC.
Well, it is always fun as we get to this time of year. Everybody trying to get that crown jewel, and the first one is the ACC regular season title. Jawad Williams doing his part in the first half for number 2 North Carolina. 12 points. UNC leads by 10. Welcome back to the ACC Sunday Night Hoops halftime show. Maryland winners of 6 of their last 7 games against North Carolina at home. They trailed the number 2 team in the nation by 10 at the break. Next week on ACC Sunday Night Hoops, number 6 Wake Forest at NC State. Tip-off set for 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. More in a moment on the ACC Sunday Night Hoops halftime show. Welcome back to the ACC Sunday Night Hoops halftime show. Chris McCray once again having his way. 16 points, 4 of 4 from beyond the arc in the first half. Terrapins trail by 10. To the Big East, number 23 Villanova at Georgetown. The freshman Kyle Lowry, the lefty, had a strong afternoon.
Villanova is playing extremely well. They have 4 people in double figures. A tough loss for Georgetown at home in hunts for an NCAA bid.
Villanova has not been to the dance since 1999 in the Big Ten. Number 20 Wisconsin wins 64-56, but Indiana upsets Michigan State in overtime.
Let me see. Yep, there's still a pulse. Indiana's still alive.
All right, let's talk our game. Number 2 North Carolina and Maryland, second half forthcoming. Perry Clark, how does Maryland get themselves back in this game?
I think that they have to offensively. I think they have to execute a little bit better than what they're doing, and they cannot give North Carolina a lot of runouts.
Tar Heels are ready to put them away. Yeah. Just put the nail in the coffin right now.
You got that RPI still on your mind. I know that. David Noel certainly thinks that it's Christmas time, and it's a joy to be playing in Carolina blue right now. Carolina leads by 10 as this has been the ACC Sunday Night Hoops halftime show.
ACC Sunday Night Hoops is presented by Staples. That was easy. And brought to you in part by Dodge. You can take life as it comes, or you can grab life by the horns. Dodge. Our score at halftime, 47. I believe you can see it right there. 47-37. Tim Brando, Mike Kaminsky, Dwayne Ballin, happy to have you with us. And for Gary Williams, the plight very similar to the last time these two teams met. It was 47-34 in Chapel Hill.
Well, and it's the same script, too. The first 13 minutes or so, Maryland was very competitive. And you see here that John Gilchrist, their point guard, got him off early. He had 8 points in the first 20 minutes. But the big story for Maryland, Chris McCray, 16 points, perfect 4 of 4 from behind the arc. However, the last 7 minutes, North Carolina goes on a run. Jawad Williams spreading the defense down, knocks down that jump shot. He has 12 points. Raymond Felton the look ahead. David Noel with the finish at the half, and it is a 10-point spread. And the number right there, you can't let a team come into your building and shoot 52%. And Carolina is Carolina, but they've got to be more disruptive defensively.
Your Elon halftime stats and the number of bench points for North Carolina, that's not uncommon, but the points in the paint just really jump out at you. Sean May and Jawad Williams had their way. 24 points between them. And were it not for the play of Chris McCray, 16 points, 4 of 4 from downtown, Maryland would be in a world of hurt going into the second half. That's a walk by North Carolina. Look at the rest of the team versus what McCray has done.
Well, and the guy they're really missing is Travis Garrison. He, over his last 4 games, averaging 16 points and 8 rebounds per attempt. He did not score in the first half and only 2 rebounds. They need him to step up.
Perhaps that man, too, Kaner Medley. Gist to follow. Gist gives them an extra athletic body in the painted area.
Well, and remember, too, that they played a lot of the first half with Mike Brennan on the floor, a guy who doesn't get a lot of big minutes. I mean, it's a senior night. You're not going to take that away from him, but, you're out of your normal rhythm.
Manuel right past Kaner Medley. Failed to finish, but there's Sean May on the block. And the reach-in foul will go against Maryland. A moment ago, Dwayne Ballin talked with Gary Williams. Right, Dwayne?
Yeah, I did, Tim. And Gary was pretty intense in the locker room, and I asked him about defensive intensity, and he was very pointed with me. He said, listen, my team is playing very hard. You make sure that you point that out. My guys are playing hard. We do need to finish some plays. We haven't gotten all the calls we wanted, but my guys are playing hard, and he didn't want to hear anything about them lacking in intensity. It was interesting how serious he was about that.
Yeah, and I can understand that. He's been, on them all week about giving him effort on the defensive end of the floor. I don't know that the breakdown at the end of the half had anything to do with effort, but clearly he didn't like the fact that Noel had an easy slam to close out the half because the floor was not balanced.
And where the turnover takes place, and you're talking about the number 2 team in the country, and your margin for error against them is very minimal.
Scott got the foul. That's his second, team's first foul of the second half. Garrison, that's a reach-in foul against May.
See, that's exactly what Travis Garrison needs to do. You need to put pressure on Sean May, make him defend you. Now, Garrison is not a low-post player, but he does have the ability to put the ball on the floor, and he drew contact in the foul on the play.
Garrison, one of those players that they just know they can get more from. He's more of a face-up player. I think a lot of people wanted to make him a post-up variety, similar to that of a Jamar Smith, and that's just not his game. It's one of the 2, and it's 49-40. Gist is now checking Jawad Williams. He certainly had his way from the perimeter. Manuel blowing by Kaner Medley, but it's fouled on the deck. It'll go against Nick Kaner Medley.
We talk all year about Jackie Manuel not needing the ball to perform well, and he is known as a primary defender. But I think in this instance, trying to put some pressure on Kaner Medley, make him defend and get him in foul trouble. He's been very active looking for his own drive here in the first minute and a half.
Well, Jackie Manuel, I think, understands with Rashad McCants not available that he's got to be a bit more assertive on the offensive end of the floor. In fact, I believe all the Heels seem to be playing that way. That's a goaltending that really was not needed. We're not even sure that ball would have gotten off of the front iron.
That's just a freshman being a little over-aggressive, and you know what? You can't scold him if you're Gary Williams. It's it's a bad judgment play, but at least his motor's running, Tim, and that's, again, talking about the effort that Gary Williams talked about at halftime.
Kaner Medley a drive. Williams rips it out of there.
Very few second chance opportunities for Maryland.
Jawad Williams sets the pick. Felton takes advantage. Off the front iron, Gist pulls it down, and he's fouled by Manuel. That's number 2 on Jackie. Bickway comes into the game now for the Terrapins, and Garrison sits down. We talk so often, Mike, about how important the first 5 minutes and the last 5 minutes of a half may be. North Carolina clearly won the last 5 minutes of the first half. Very important that Maryland answer here. Kaner Medley with a tray. 51-43.
It's still basically, it's McCray, Gilchrist, and Kaner Medley doing all of the scoring for Maryland right now. Nobody else has stepped up, but they needed that 3.
May over a Bickway. Failed to finish. I believe he lost it on the way up.
The ball slipped out of his hands. He just has a decided strength advantage against the Bickway.
No look inside to a Bickway from Gilchrist.
Little lapse as Sean May was lost coming back defensively. You got to identify where your man is, and if there is an advantage that a Bickway has, it's speed up and down the floor.
Felton. Manuel on the offensive glass. Ball's on the deck. Jawad Williams with the garbage deuce. Every loose ball down low, the Tar Heels front line gets. Bickway. Not there. Disturbed mightily by May, and again, open dunk on the other end of the floor.
And that's what a bad shot gets you to. When you surprise your teammates like that, there's no defensive balance at all, and just an easy breakout for North Carolina.
Jawad with 16, and just like that, North Carolina's lead back to 10. And Gary Williams wants a timeout.
The Terrapins call timeout.
We talked a little bit about that with Gary Williams earlier today. Those loose ball situations. Jawad Williams sprinting for the slam. One of the most respected reporters is back and head-to-head with James Brown. JB visits with defending NASCAR champion Kurt Busch, examines the recent poker craze. All of that coming up on head-to-head tomorrow at 9. 55-45. There's the sign we were talking about. Pretend they're Duke. And especially now, 10-point lead again for North Carolina, 55-45. Going to take a look at that last play that you were talking about.
Well, you see right here, hold right here. You see Sean May. He's got the sight line on a Bickway who's behind him, but then as the play unfolds, he'll turn, and a Bickway just out-sprints him into the paint area. You see right there, a little bit of a lost vision, and a Bickway, nice hustle, never giving up on the play. Good look inside, and that gets you 2 points. Nice to see him rewarded for running the floor.
Bickway, sophomore from Carson, California, outstanding shot blocker. They need he and Gist to really provide a spark inside, because it has just been all North Carolina along the front line, and now both Jawad Williams and Sean May are out of the game.
Talked about it. It looked like Carolina was on the verge of really trying to break things open. And this is a very critical time for Maryland. Now with those players out, they've got a chance to narrow the gap.
Terry, Noel, and Marvin Williams are now on the floor for North Carolina. And there's McCray with a steal. Kaner Medley, a leaner, does not fall. And once again, Terry takes it down and gives it up.
Well, and North Carolina had numbers back. I think Kaner Medley tried to force something, wasn't there.
Noel, very strong to the basket.
And see, that's what hurts against North Carolina. You get a turnover, you have a chance to score, you miss that opportunity, and they turn it into 2 points.
Foul committed by Terry. 15:32 remaining here in the second half. And the Heels still hold a 10-point cushion. North Carolina by 10 here on Oscar night. We're celebrating ourselves here on ACC Sunday Night Hoops with a Foxy. How about the play of the year? Xavier Dowdell's winning shot against Duke, and of course they held off the Dukies, and one of many very big wins for Seth Greenberg, who certainly is a strong candidate for Coach of the Year. And you look at the standings in the ACC, Virginia Tech right there at 7-7 with an opportunity to play their way in. I think their biggest issue is overall team losses. They need to get as many W's as possible.
And RPI well over 100 too, which is going to set them back. But Tim, that sets up, they are at Clemson on Tuesday, and that sets up a huge game with Maryland going to Virginia Tech to finish out the year.
Particularly if this score holds up. Yep. Terps are trying to get to 8-8 and manage to get into the NCAA tournament. Those RPIs, I think, may mean less this year than they have in the past. And but the truth of the matter is, if you're inside 50, you feel pretty good. If you're outside it, you're struggling.
Yeah, Georgia Tech kind of right on that line, although they had a huge win down in Miami.
Came from behind in the second half to get it done. Loose ball out of bounds. It will belong to the Terps. Gilchrist with only 1 field goal, 1 assist in the last 21 minutes. He was outstanding early. Yes, in traffic, stays with it over Marvin Williams.
All right, 2 talented freshmen going at it athletically down in the post, and Gist was just quicker off the floor on 3 occasions.
Marvin Williams only has 2 points tonight, and with this lineup, he needs to become more active. Is guilty of taking an extra step there. Sean May will quickly re-enter the game for North Carolina.
Well, with the lineup as it was out on the floor, Maryland could really collapse on Marvin Williams, and that's what the issue was. Now with Sean May, they've got to pay attention to him.
In a game that featured a high wire act the first 15 minutes, North Carolina ended with a strong 21-8 run at the close of the first half to get a 10-point lead. They've maintained that through the early moments of the second half. North Carolina with a lead by 8. Gist the rebound. Manuel can't come up with it. Gilchrist alley-ooping for Gist inside.
Well, once again, Maryland's bigs beating North Carolina down the floor. How about Gist? He gets the rebound defensively and then out-sprints everybody for the layup.
He has 8. Marvin Williams, another freshman, trying to return to sender. And with the ball fake, he's able to get a Beckway airborne, and he picks up the foul.
Here's the look, and it just, I think, Gist's ability to catch the ball. That was a tough catch going away from the play. He was running out of real estate on the play. Well, those long sideline jump shots can get you into trouble and spread you out.
And the speed down the floor was also impressive for the freshman.
Well, he and Beckway have both made plays like that in this half.
Jones coming back onto the floor. Mike Jones, the sophomore from Massachusetts. They need some offensive punch from the perimeter, and he can deliver that. If Beckway sits down, Kenny has picked up a number of fouls early on. He's got 3 and sits with 14 remaining in the game. And Marvin Williams just plays within himself. I mean, this is a star talent that has really adopted the team concept. And tonight, it's all about Jawad Williams and really, to some extent, Noel. Noel's come in and really delivered on both ends of the floor.
Quality bench points, rebounds, assists. Nice stat line for him in this game.
Kaner Medley lost the dribble. Fortunate that Jones came up with it. Yes, a little duck under against May, and Sean won that duel. Noel leaves it to Manuel.
Boy, what a nice break. That was a great decision by David Noel. Gave Manuel a second count to get in position to receive the pass.
And again, Gary Williams calls a timeout, and one of those shock treatment defensive transition TOs he's taken.
Here's the break without Raymond Felton involved in it. Just nice feel for the basketball, the dribble to let Kaner Medley go flying by. That break is such a lethal weapon for North Carolina.
13 transition points. When you think about the outstanding newcomer that Marvin Williams is, and how much depth and talent Roy has on his floor. There's no question about that. But they've not had one ACC Player of the Week. We asked Roy Williams about it.
It is flattering in some ways because we do talk so much about team, but I'm also one of those guys that always says that the teams that win, their players get the awards and rewards. And so it is a little unusual to have, because we've had some pretty good performances, you know, and it's directly in contrast to hear all those people say they've got the best talent in America, but we've never had anybody talented enough to be the Player of the Week.
It is an outstanding point, and to be honest with you, I was surprised when told that that was in fact the case after looking at it. McCray comes in and quickly gets the deuce. He's carried this team offensively. He has 18.
Well, you know, how many times is it that the great coaches, or considered great coaches, never get Coach of the Year?
Yeah.
You know, there's always a better story. I mean, Seth Greenberg may get it this year, and, you know, and here Roy Williams probably going to run the table and win the conference.
May over Gist, count it, and the foul. See where the Tar Heels have always ranked in the NCAA annals in points per game, scoring margin. That, I'd say that's good coaching, wouldn't you?
But you know what, Tim, that rarely translates into national championships, and that's the slow bit. It's been a long time since the leading scoring team in the nation has won it all. But I think the difference for this team is they're defending so much better than they did last year.
And by the way, we all know that's the one thing missing on Roy Williams' resume. Jones rejected by May.
Sean May just quietly taking control of this game.
And Noel is fouled inside.
Here's the look. Mike Jones, to his credit, trying to make something happen, and he has to go not only past Noel, who probably set up that block for Sean May. May comes in and cleans it up and gets the double dip on the stat line with the block and the rebound.
Jones got the foul for Maryland. And again, the lead is still 10. With the pace of the game, you really begin to think that Maryland is fortunate that it's only 10. Gist, a face-up shot over May, not there.
Right, you know, John Gilchrist is trying to get his team involved, but you sense that he's going to start looking for his own shot pretty soon.
North Carolina in firm control of this one. They have been since late in the first half. Still maintain a 10-point lead with 12.5 remaining. Raymond Felton picks up that foul, and it'll go the other way. Tim Brando alongside Mike Kaminsky and Wayne Ballin roaming the sidelines for us. ACC Sunday Night Hoops presented by Staples. McCray searching for the foul, and he gets it from Manuel.
Well, you will see one of the best free throw shooters in the nation now step up to the line. That's the thing I like for, you know, you look at McCray, he only averages 3 free throw attempts a game.
Well, I believe we're going to have the officials take a look at the monitor to see if, in fact, that was a 3-point attempt by McCray rather than a 2-point attempt, which is what Ray Natili ruled.
And the reason why is McCray was really jumping forward on that play, and it's your takeoff point.
I think he may need a different angle besides that one.
It looked like his right toe was over the line, but tough to see through the stanchion.
And this will be a difficult angle as well. And again, they've got to be able to see something a lot more defining than that.
Yeah, that's a 2.
That's a 2. He's inside.
Right foot just over the line.
That's the one you want right there. It was a good call. It's a 2-shot violation. And by the way, without the duck under, he doesn't get the foul. He clearly was looking for the shot and the foul.
Right, and Manuel doesn't usually make that type of mistake where he goes flying up. That McCray put a nice head fake on him and got him off his feet.
Junior from Capitol Heights, Maryland, Chris McCray. Chris has a cousin, Charlie Bell, who's a freshman playing at Loyola of Maryland. And so it's been in the family. They got the basketball mix going on. It's both.
94% from the line. does. Like I say, you like to see him in a position, maybe gets into the low block, posts up, and uses those moves to get himself to the free throw line a little more frequently. That being said, 20 points on the evening.
Travis Garrison commits the foul. And the thing about McCray you have to love is when you talk to him or you read what he has to say in newspapers and periodicals about the Maryland situation, he's quick to point out that Gary Williams is absolutely right. They've got to mesh as a team. Foul spotted underneath. And Gary Williams is beside himself. Goes against Jones, it appears. His second. It was a push against Jawad Williams.
And that's the frustrating thing again. If you're Maryland, you've been making these little runs, and they get bailed out with a miss on the one-on-one. But they'll make a play and get it down to 6, and then that lead will expand back up to 10.
Jones for 3. He was a highly heralded high school talent, largely because of just that. An outstanding offensive player.
Well, it was the swing of the basketball that set him up too, Tim. And Sean May a little reluctant to come out and get a hand up on him. That's the best look that Jones has had this evening.
Williams. Jones trying to keep it alive and does. Look at May on the deck. Boy, the effort from the big fella, outstanding. Roy Williams disagrees with Ray Natilli's call, and Maryland's got it.
Sterling Ledbetter put some skin on the floor.
May puts it on the deck. And the Terps will have it when we come back.
North Carolina leads Maryland 63-58 here on ACC Sunday Night Hoops. The 1965-66 season, history was made in the ACC when Billy Jones joined the Maryland Terrapins. He became the first African-American player in the history of the ACC in basketball. He is here tonight as an honorary captain of the Terrapins. Mr. Jones, can you begin to tell us what it was like for you in that historic season?
Well, it was a case where basketball is important to me, and much like high school, you're doing things that haven't been done before, and it was challenging. But Gary Williams, Gary Ward, Joe Harrington made life very easy for me, and it was a great season. I'm glad I did what we did.
Well, your Terrapins are responding right now. You mentioned that Gary Williams was your teammate.
Yes.
What did it mean to have teammates like him that would stick by you?
Gary, and again, it's nice to know people have your back. Gary was always there. He's still there. He grabbed me tonight, got me on the bench. I told my wife I would not sit on the bench this year, but Gary got me to sit on the bench, and we're going to get this thing yet.
Thank you. Billy Jones, the first African-American player in the history of the ACC. Guys?
All right, that's great to hear from him, and there's always been a tremendous amount of history surrounding the ACC here at Maryland, and there's McCray. The 8-0 run ended when Jawad Williams hit the shot, but the Terrapins clearly making their move.
Mike Jones coming in, giving a big lift off of the bench, and nice curl play. They've got to respect McCray's jump shooting ability, and that allowed him to curl around the screen and get the layup.
Inside they go to May, and Garrison once again will pick up the foul.
There's a look inside. Just an easy catch for Sean May. If you can get it with 2 feet in the paint, normally you're going to finish.
Maryland making a strong move with an 8-0 run. Has clawed to within 2 of the second-ranked Tar Heels. Just over 10 minutes remaining. Williams. Marvin Williams trying to corral it. Out of bounds, last touch by Jack Emanuel. Tim Brando, Mike Jaminski, Dwayne Ballin here in College Park, Maryland. The Terrapins trying to solidify an NCAA bid with a victory against the mighty Tar Heels. Ledbetter, a runner. Count it, and we are tied. The last tie was at 26. With plenty of time remaining in the first half.
The bench was not a factor for Maryland in the first half. They've come to play here in the second half. Sterling Ledbetter, I just don't know that Raymond Felton, lack of respect or whatever, lost him completely on that play.
Jones rejected that shot by Scott. Jones and Gist have given a lot of energy, Mike, to the Maryland Terrapins in the second half. Carolina sophomore. Felton comes up empty. Manuel trying to save it. Out of bounds for the Terrapins, and Roy Williams still a little concerned about Jackie Manuel.
That was a tough shot. There's still time left on the clock. Felton trying to elevate his team offensively.
North Carolina in control much of this ACC season. Kaner Medley too strong. Felton with a quick outlet. Melvin Scott going deep. Tries to save it. Out of bounds. Last touch by Raymond Felton, and Maryland's got it.
Some questionable decisions by North Carolina with the basketball over this last stretch. They have not been very efficient on the offensive end.
David Noel coming on the floor. Crowd responds to the play of Ledbetter as Gilchrist comes back out. See the turnover story. North Carolina uncharacteristically turning it over the last few times down. Garrison over Williams. Loose ball, Marvin Williams pulls it down.
Well, it has just not been there offensively for Travis Garrison in this game. He and Ebekwe both have really struggled.
Whereas Gist and Jones have been difference makers. Noel with the dump down to Marvin Williams. He's fouled from the back by Jones.
Well, and an unnecessary foul. I thought that Travis Garrison had Marvin Williams under control defensively. It would have been a tough shot for him to make. If you're Mike Jones, you just got to find your guy and block him out or get on the board yourself.
That's 3 on Mike Jones. North Carolina, conventional wisdom is they are the strongest other than Illinois in holding on to a #1 seed for the NCAA tournament. But this is really more about, when you think about it for them, Mike, this is about flexing your muscles at this time of the year. You see what Marvin Williams has done as a freshman. Clearly the freshman of the year in this league, one would think. But this is more about where you are in the conference and maintaining a level of play going into the ACC tournament.
Well, I think more importantly, too, Roy Williams wants to see his team respond to its last true road game.
That's right.
Of the year. You know, good test going in. I mean, they will play in the ACC tournament, but everything going on is going to be neutral, and they finish up with 2 at home.
Felton with numbers. Scott for 3. Outstanding decision-making by the Tar Heels in that fast break sequence.
There's no doubt that this team will make the extra pass when necessary, and they saw that Scott was open, trusted him. He had a tough offensive night up to that.
30-second timeout with 7:58 remaining. And don't forget, it only gets better as we get closer to the finish of ACC Sunday Night Hoops. During the regular season, how about another team trying to maintain its hold on a possible #1 seeding? Wake Forest taking on North Carolina State at the RBC Center, 8 o'clock Eastern time, so note the time, a bit later than tonight, and 7 o'clock Central, 5 Pacific time.
Well, at North Carolina State, and you see Maryland, actually, they've won the last 3 meetings at home against North Carolina. But for NC State, look ahead, they've got a critical game coming up at Virginia. They're sitting at 6 and 8. I think they've got to run the table to have a legitimate chance. And the road not easy for them because Wake has got plenty to play for in that game as well.
This is a time in the game when you really begin to understand matchups and what they can mean. And for the most part, with Ledbetter on the floor, along with Jones and clearly James Gist, Maryland played better basketball. And for the moment, Gilchrist is back out there, along with Jones, but Travis Garrison remains. McCray has been the constant throughout the game. Jones again. He is lighting it up.
Against a pretty good defensive player, too, and David Noel, who is right in his shirt.
3 for 4 from downtown for him. Manuel gives it up. Noel rattles it home.
Gets it back. Gets that 3 back. He has the second one of the game.
Just that quickly, Gary Williams has James Gist ready to get back on the deck. Garrison working it on Williams. Again, his defense just too steady down there. Manuel, outlet to Jawad Williams. That's an offensive, well, they're going to call steps instead. Timeout, 7:14 remaining. Mr. Jones, your neighborhood is downtown tonight. More to come from College Park as Maryland makes its move on number 2, North Carolina. Get your poker face on. Beginning March 13th, the world's best players will once again gather to finally answer the question, who's the greatest poker player in the world? Find out on Poker Superstars Invitational 2, beginning March 13th. Mike Jones has been incredible. 3 of 4 from downtown and has actually played some very good defense.
Well, there's the long skip pass that gets him his first open 3, and that's the thing that really got him off. And then a shooter like that, once the spark is lit, he is seeing a big basket. 3 of 4 from behind the arc.
Loose ball, last touch by Jones, and North Carolina will have it. Those scrum situations, when they do occur, there's the line on Jones. 3 of 4 from downtown. North Carolina seems to win all of those. In traffic. That's another step situation as May took the jump stop a bit too far. Ledbetter back on the floor now, and Gilchrist sits. And the way the second half has gone, Mike, I'm not surprised at all that Sterling Ledbetter's out there. Again, another loose ball situation played by North Carolina.
Well, and Gary Williams not afraid to ride the hot hand. And Ledbetter has just done a better job of running the ball club in the second half.
That's a kicked ball by Jones, and a fresh 35 for North Carolina. And the other factor here for John Gilchrist, only 1 field goal in the last 30 minutes of this game for him after a scintillating start. So it's Gist, McCray, Ledbetter, Kaner Medley, and Mike Jones on the floor for Maryland. North Carolina counters with May, David Noel, Jackie Emanuel, Marvin Williams, and Raymond Felton. Gist, another steal. His hands have been quicker to the ball. Ledbetter, a little stop and go, and a poor pass deflected and taken away by Noel. One of the few mistakes he's made, and Noel made them pay.
New season high for David Noel, 10 points. Only other double-figure game this year, Tim, was against Kentucky in that win.
Gist doubled, slapped away by Emanuel. North Carolina clamps down defensively. That's a block, and Jackie Emanuel will get to the free throw line. Jackie Emanuel and David Noel with quality pilfers the last couple of minutes.
Well, and see what happens here on this one, that Mike Jones, you won't see, tries to reach for it, and David Noel runs through his body and comes up with the possession. Just out hustled and out quick Mike Jones to the basketball.
Just as we were complimenting Ledbetter and the way he was running the offense, 4 straight turnovers committed by the Terrapins, and that leads John Gilchrist back onto the floor along with Abekwe and Travis Garrison. McCray, Gist, and Ledbetter all sit down. But overall, Gary Williams has got to be really happy with the play of Gist, Jones, and Ledbetter off his bench. Mike Lonergan there, the assistant coach with Gary Williams. We should congratulate him. He was just named the new coach at Vermont. He'll be taking over at the conclusion of this season.
He was a long time. He was the head coach at Catholic University, won a national championship Division II. Now he gets his chance. Always wanted to be that get his first head coaching job in D1, and they finally came.
Kaner Medley unable to connect. Sean May the outlet. North Carolina's extended their lead back to 6 after Maryland had tied it at 65. May again claims it with those quality hands, but it's not free by Abekwe. Control to North Carolina. 6th straight double-double for Sean May. Last Tar Heel to do that, Antoine Jamison.
He is having a first-team All-ACC year, Tim, and no doubt about it, and especially his play over the last half of the season.
There are no chemistry issues with North Carolina this season. I talked with Sean a little bit about that before the game tonight. He had some wonderful things to say about the Tar Heels tradition as Manuel gets the tip in, and the lead back to 8.
Again, the little things that Jackie Emanuel brings to you, the ability to get on the offensive glass.
Raymond Felton will pick up that foul, trying to check Gilchrist. I asked Sean May before the game tonight, I said, tell me why this team seems to have such outstanding chemistry. And he discussed a summertime golf outing that Vince Carter puts on. Antoine Jameson, George Lynch, and a few other of the veteran Tar Heels came. And he started talking to this class, this particular class of Tar Heel players. And he said, you know, you guys need to spend more time with one another off the floor as well as on, because your success and your failure as teammates will bring you closer together. And he said they did make a conscious effort this season when practice began in mid-October to do exactly that.
Well, he talked about, and it's just completely opposed to his freshman year, how they just kind of show up and play, and that was clearly lacking.
There were cliques developing at that time, and they don't have that issue right now. And Roy Williams made them aware of it, and then when the other players came in offering their opinion, they listened. And again, May takes it strong to the hoop. Garrison having all kinds of difficulty trying to deal with Big Sean on the low block.
Well, Maryland has nobody physically who can set up with Sean May. And anytime you're a big and you can flash across the lane and get position, you're that much more difficult to defend. Any big guy on the move, you have an advantage. And he's just so good at catching the basketball and drawing contact.
Now, you know something about double-doubles for post players. It's not easy to go out there and do it 6-7 times in a row. And that's what he's done.
A very, very impressive streak. You know, he and Sheldon Williams in a similar situation have separated themselves from the other post players in the conference.
And frankly, it's what distinguishes teams in college basketball today, because it's such a guard-laden game. North Carolina by 8, 4.5 and counting. Kaner Medley leans in. A little body English, curled that one through the cylinder. Manuel trying to drive on Kaner Medley, not allowing that baseline to become open. May. Not there. Jawad Williams trying to keep it alive and does. His athletic ability keeps the ball in Carolina's hands.
Ryan got a killer possession, too. If you're Maryland now, 3.5 minutes left, and you made a good defensive stop, and you must come up with the basketball in that instance. Now you've just given them North Carolina another possession. That's dangerous.
Alley-oop from Felton to Sean May. North Carolina 16 offensive rebounds for 21 second chance points.
See, instead of cutting it to 6 and then possibly 3, they've expanded it with 8, just because of a second chance opportunity.
Gilchrist for 3. 80 to 75, a 2-possession game.
Haven't heard that number in a while.
It took over 32 minutes for him to get back into the scoring column. Felton trying to run him through a variety of screens. Gilchrist having none of it. Shot clock winding down. Felton got away from him. That's a walk. Timeout. The walking double-double did make a mistake there with an extra step. Oh, but can he deliver off the oop? Plenty of alley and a whole lot of oop. Let's take a look at our Staples game summary, Mike. And without McCray, he's been the constant. They wouldn't have even been in a position to make this a close game.
And you know what? It's interesting. They've had no answer for McCray on the perimeter, and Maryland's had no answer for Sean May inside.
That's right.
He's on the paint in this game.
Let's take a look at our Subway hot shot of the game, and it's worth another look. No question about that.
Well, you got to talk. Sean May got lost in the defense. A great pass by Raymond Felton. And that was, you know what? That's a play that Sean May couldn't make last year. I don't think he was in shape enough to make that play with 2.5 minutes left to go in the game, and that's been the difference in him this year.
A big sequence here for Maryland offensively. Need to maintain contact as well as North Carolina handles their offense. They really need to score here. Abekwe. Jones saves it to McCray. That's who you want to have it.
times do you see on an offensive rebound and a scattered play, a guy steps up and makes a three, the defense is completely out of sorts.
And Mike Jones kept the ball alive to get it to McRae. Turnover by the Tar Heels. McRae is 5 of 6 from downtown. He has 25 points. Career high for him. He feels it. He and Mike Jones particularly have been the difference makers in the second half, along with James Gist, who's out there right now, number 15 for the Terrapins down low.
Well, Jones and McRae, they're matched up well with Manuel and Noel, North Carolina's 2 best perimeter defenders. McRae
leaves it deep for Jones. Oh, the iron, not only kind, generous.
And Noel got sucked in on the play, and that allowed Jones to get the good look.
Well, if Jones is the trigger key man, then you want to ride that horse the rest of the night.
Right, you know, you've got to find him, and that's what John Gilchrist has done. You've got 2 hot shooters out on the floor, in McRae and Jones. And when you have 2 options, it's tough for the defense to stay with them. This was on that scattered play. McRae knocking down the 3. And then because of penetration, there's the kick out again, the other look at it. And this is where penetration, and McRae almost traveled that time, but that's where Noel got sucked in, and that was a great find. And boy, you love those home rims, don't you?
I thought they calibrated those equally now.
3 straight 3-point baskets for Maryland. Gilchrist, McRae, Jones. That erases a lot of leads.
I think the fans now know that Maryland has been able to pretend that North Carolina was duped. 81-80, their first lead since 29-28 in the opening half.
First lead doesn't matter. Last lead matters.
Jawad Williams for 3. Bang.
Jawad Williams for 3.
How many big shots has that young man made in the last couple of weeks? You know, going into the Connecticut game, his numbers had really fallen off for about a 3 or 4 game period, Mike, and then he had an outstanding performance in Hartford in the non-conference win against the Huskies, who, by the way, are playing awfully well right now for Jim Calhoun, and he's just continued that torrid pace in the ACC.
He averaged 3 points a game in that stretch, Timmy, 15 since that over the last 4. And this is a shot, this time of game, that Rashad McCants may look for. Instead, they turn to the senior, and Jawad Williams has stepped up.
Something to remember as you look at the numbers on Jawad. Gary Williams had to call a number of timeouts early in the second half, so he's only got 1 timeout remaining.
We have 1 minute to play.
1 minute left. You have to figure that McRae or Jones are the most likely to touch it at the critical time. Of course, Gilchrist is always a factor. On the offensive glass, Maryland comes away with it. Tie ball, the arrow to the Terrapins. And that is important at this stage of the game. Kaner Medley to check in for Maryland. And Gist out.
Kaner Medley for James Gist.
Well, offensive for defensive substitution there. Jones comes away with it. A floater. Not there. A Beckway. Tipped it twice and got it to go down.
Wow, what a play by a Beckway. We've seen it a bunch in this half. Maryland's beaten North Carolina off the floor a couple of times, and he missed an easy point-blank tip, but then bailed himself out with a tough left-hander.
And by the way, they haven't had too many putback opportunities in this game.
And the whole thing starts when David Noel falls down, and Beckway might have gotten away with a push there and then just went back over the top of Sean May.
We knew going in, Mike, that Maryland would give their best effort tonight, that they just seemingly always respond to those titanic teams on their schedule. And there you see the remaining games for both clubs, and they're all very important at this stage for Maryland, trying to work their way into the NCAA tournament season.
North Carolina finishes out at home with those 2 games, and then the all-important season ender with Duke. But all Maryland, if you're in right now, you just need a stop. There's plenty of time left on the clock. They'll have 6 or so seconds coming back.
Capacity crowd at Comcast Center, all on their feet. ACC Sunday Night Hoops coming down to Casey.
I think if you're North Carolina, you take your first best shot and then trust your defense.
Felton all the way to the rack. Gary Williams in disbelief that he was able to get a layup.
His best scoring moves, Tim, are to his left hand, and he was able to run through some screens and get into the lane. Here he comes off the top, and just Kaner Medley gave up on the play. You've got to stay with Felton. And then Sean May seals off inside, so no shot blockers come in. And that was a great drive by Raymond Felton, but he had plenty of help.
How much more comfortable are you as a coach when you know that you've got that kid looking you eye to eye in the huddle at this stage of the game?
Gary Williams, go back a couple of years when Stephen Blake was in that role.
Yep.
I mean, same situation. Hey, look at that. That's a great shot right there. Coach on the bench, coach on the floor.
Yeah, and by the way, with that most recent deuce, his first of this half, he has a double-double. He's dished out 10 on this Sunday night to go along with his 10 points. And with 18.9 remaining, Maryland with a chance to either send it to overtime or try to win it with a 3.
I think you got to trust Chris McCray. Let's see how North Carolina matches up, because they're going to have Noel and Manuel in on Mike Jones and McCray.
Lineup looks this way: Gilchrist, Kaner Medley, Jones, Abekwe, and McCray. North Carolina with Manuel, Felton, Jawad Williams, David Noel, and Jawad Williams on the floor.
Conventional wisdom is you go for the tie at home and try to extend into overtime. Let's see if Maryland tries to take care of business right here.
Gilchrist on the drive, ball knocked away by Felton, out of bounds with 6.8 remaining. And another timeout, the final one taken by Gary Williams.
The Terrapins called timeout.
This is when scouting reports really come in and become the major factor at the end of any game.
Those baseline out of bounds plays, you focus in on them, and every team goes over them at shoot-arounds.
And you can't take a look at it and call a timeout even if you're Roy Williams now. No timeouts left for either club.
Timeout situation right there. So, the onus right now, you've got to have a solid guy taking the ball out of bounds, somebody who's got some poise and has that clock in his head.
Well, it's been said for many, many years, Mike, and North Carolina even warms up the way they did when Dean Smith was coaching many years ago, and Frank McGuire prior to that. If you think about it, sometimes the most difficult thing to do against a Tar Heels team is get the ball inbound. That pretty much says it all. Win now, and we get to dance later. The fans are very well aware of how important to win against a top team, second in the country, and in the RPI, what it would do for Maryland with a win.
For Maryland right now, aside from getting the ball in, ball screening and their action and getting people open is the most important thing.
Jones driving to the basket, past Manuel, rejected by May. That should do it. North Carolina wins. What a huge win for Roy Williams and company, and he would be most proud that they did it with defense.
Well, I tell you what, Sean May was an absolute man in this game. He owned the paint, double-double, points, rebounds, blocks, and none bigger than the one on last play. Now, you got to give Mike Jones credit to try to force the action a little bit, make a play going to the rim and involve the referees. But, boy, this was just a great help side defensive play by Sean May, cutting off the angle and then keeping it in bounds to Tim, not letting Maryland get control of the basketball and have a second chance.
He had 22 points, Mike, 11 rebounds, 3 blocks, and the last one really saved potential overtime, if not the game.
Like I said, to me, first team All-ACC.
Oh, yeah.
No question about it, and a terrific effort for him. And again, making that type of play last year at the end of the game, I don't know if he could have done it, but in so much better shape and condition now. Very active, very athletic.
Roy Williams there, you saw him congratulating, I believe, Mike Lonergan, the assistant coach for Maryland. He's gotten a head coaching job at the Division 1A level. Here's that play again.
But Jackie Manuel keeps him on his hip, drives him right into Sean May and the big fella protecting the basket.
And it was Raymond Felton's layup with 18.9 remaining that turns out to be the eventual game winner. And the updated standings have North Carolina at 12-2, 24-3 overall. A definite #1 seed in the upcoming NCAA tournament, regardless of what happens the rest of the way. For Mike Jaminski, Tim Brando sending it back to our studios in Atlanta for the moment. Fellas?